From out of the stars, a beacon of light beckons humanity forward, bringing a message of scientific understanding, creative expression, and exemplifying love in action.
We are the world. We are the children.
So an astrophysicist at the University of Nottingham says that he estimates there's 100 quintillion planets in our galaxy. That's 20 zeros, right?
And when Muriel made the contact with each one, they gave their position in terms of where they were in the galaxy. So she would ask them, are you on the outside or are you on the inside? This being the source, the infinite creative intelligence, which projects energy out to all of the planets.
Bring not self-love to the fold. Sweet child, you can give of self and more.
And you will see on the outer wall are these 7 temples. And these temples, the whole city is a replica of what these spiritual worlds look like on these higher spiritual dimensions in the higher astral planes.
But he was a brilliant scientist. We call him a cosmic visionary, and he was trained on the inner worlds of light before he incarnated with all this great electronics and scientific knowledge.
On October 12th and 13th, 2019, Unarius celebrated its 36th Interplanetary Conclave of Light event, We Are Not Alone in the Universe. A light-filled weekend with music, creative expression, a self-healing workshop, and more. One of the highlights of the weekend was the Interplanetary Tour, a live interview with representatives of the Interplanetary Confederation. This confederation is a galactic United Nations of planets that Earth will be joining in its positive future. So sit back and enjoy this communication with a few of the representatives of the Interplanetary Confederation.
Life is so much more creative. The people have gotten their inner selves back.
Our planet affects all the other planets. Our planet affects the universe. So if we're not progressing, then we're holding back this great idea that Aishana has to progress all these 33 planets.
And now they have their own spacecraft. They contact other worlds. They help other worlds. And other worlds comes and help them to start again the agriculture.
One individual sharing with another one the successes that they had had and the revelations that they saw through this process. What we saw at the time in our society is that we were very technically advanced. We had a great place to live. Everything was super clean. We knew all that we wanted to know. But now this gave us a whole new way of looking at things in a creative way. And from that, we were able to create new artworks, new technologies. And once we started sharing that with other people amongst us, then everybody wanted to get involved, basically.
And now we begin our live interaction with other worlds, starting with Nanny of planet Delna. Greetings, Nanny. What was your planet's understanding of reincarnation?
The understanding was that when they would pass over, they would go to another planet, Earth planet. And they thought that that was reincarnation. So we did not know of the higher spiritual planets. So we weren't getting any education from the higher when we passed over. So we just kept coming back and reliving the same thing that we'd been living.
What was one of the things given by Uriel on the lens that helped your world the most?
It was the poetry from Dr. Norman. it was healing. It was very healing, and I think that was one of the main things that started the healing within all the people, because from that point on, the people changed, and they were very open, and they took control of it themselves. So it was a great acceptance that was taking place on the planet, not just us trying to force any of this to happen. We were ready. It would be the real word that we could use here.
After the government was disbanded, what became the central focusing point for the people?
Well, the lens was the key to everything that took place. But what they did was they started focusing on breaking up from the cities and moving into communal type living, because our planet was very sterile and organized, and everything was planned in advance, and people were like, the term was used, a one-night stand. In other words, we weren't really able to communicate with each other. When we moved to these communal, then usually there would be a leader of the group, and they would try to work out, because of the lens, they would try to work out their own information, or gaining their own information of what to do. And so that was a real great help at that time.
Because your society had become impersonal and mechanical, they had lost the ability to relate to people. How did you start to overcome what your society had become?
That was basically the communal living. Not only that, but see, we were taken through the flame. They were taken to the spiritual worlds at night. And so everything that was happening with that started to bring the change, because they started to realize that we could get the answers from the lens, but also that we were changing as a people and looking for the answers. And when you start to look for the answers, then they would come through. And our scientists were the leaders of the planet. So I believe the scientists were great in helping the people, because they had reached a point where they couldn't come up with anything new. They thought they'd reached the end of what they could do. So they called it her Shana. That is what we knew her as in the past. But when Uriel came to the planet, then it opened up everything, and the scientists, I think, were really ready for something. They needed something new, or otherwise they couldn't progress. Today, with the many years since the original contact with us, we have gained greatly by breaking up into these communities. And what it does for everyone is bring everyone together, which we weren't together. But we were very selfish, self-centered planet. And so it was everything about us, individually. And so what we had to do with the people is allow them to understand how the lens worked, and that's why it changed.
This lens, we call it a lens due to lack of a better word. I like to call it a generating system, for that is what it does. We can experience great healings through the use of this lens. This morning, I put it to test in a very, well, we can't say experimental stage, for we no longer need to experiment, but in a very demonstrative. We were demonstrating. And I oscillated my consciousness through the lens in both directions, and right-angled the frequency through it unto another spiritual planet, and those people on this high spiritual planet were transcended. They were lifted in their consciousness and upon their level of development. This is the great potency and the wonder of this lens, what it can do.
You say that you deflect the frequencies from this generator to other portions of your worlds or other worlds, as you are doing here.
Yes, well, right now I will tell you, I'm speaking through the lens. It is not in this dimension, it is in the abstract. I have seen a portion of the lens psychically, and it is a magnificent structure. It appears as great diamond-shaped crystals. And this is, in essence, what it is. And it consists of countless thousands of these great diamond shapes. And at each conjunction where the shapes are met, out pours great shafts of luminous light. It is a very, very powerful mechanism.
Now we'll visit with Rana of planet Deva. Greetings, Rana.
You know what, Tracy? It is so good to see you now that we have interplanetary communication.
Before Uriel contacted your planet, I know the people of Deva saw you as a goddess. Why were you so sad?
The reason, or one of the reasons they saw me as a goddess, is because I was over 100 years old, and the average age of the populace was 25 years old, so that was one reason. Another reason was they were so fearful of everything, and I wasn't, so that's why. But I was sad because of those misconceptions and those fears. It was like I wasn't able to complete my mission, or I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing with the people. And there was these noxious bands or belts of negative black energies around the planet, and they couldn't seem to understand that it was their fears and misconceptions that were causing that.
Besides giving a projection for the entire planet, what else did Uriel do to help you personally?
She started talking about the conclave in great detail, each little thing, and it reawakened my own memories of having attended, and that was the beginning of my healing. But she continued on. She sent love in the form of a blue beam of energy that entered my forehead, and then it was so unusual. She sent her fragrance, but it wasn't like a flower per se. It was like her whole being and essence. And where we were two people talking to each other, suddenly we were one. It was like she enveloped me and we were one person. And then the last thing, well, she sent so many things, but the one that comes to mind is joy. I don't know how you package and send joy, but she did.
Mm-hmm. Rana, can you tell us what changes took place with the people and planet after Uriel's contact and projection?
Well, one of the things was, as that luminous ball of energy was circling our planet 7 times, these golden streamers broke through that black negative band, and all of a sudden there was light. And it was so amazing. It was, well, since we're able to tune into some of your communications, it would kind of be like Beijing. All of a sudden, if all the smog was gone and it was totally clear, something like that. So that was one thing. And then Uriel had encouraged me because 100,000 years ago, a long time ago, when the Aryan first came, they built this main temple and they put all kinds of devices in it. But after 100,000 years and many incarnations, I forgot what they were and how to use them. So she suggested that I investigate. So my 11 associates and I looked into it, and we were able to get some of them started, which were, well, it allowed the interplanetary communication. So that was really good. So we had the light coming through. And then the people, they were very self-centered and religious, they started thinking about other people and started talking about their feelings and caring more about helping other people than themselves.
Can you tell us, Rana, what progress has been made on your planet since then?
Well, lots more things, actually. So the temple was totally covered up with vegetations because the people were afraid to come to the temple. It was like off limits. And so what they did is they cleaned it all up, and they started putting in gardens and pools and flowers and waterfalls and fountains and all these things all around the temple and other places too. And now that's the place that they gather for their outdoor classrooms and, out in the light and the beauty instead of, inside the dark, religious buildings and stuffy. And so the religious leaders kind of became the followers. And so that's where the beautiful classes are right now. And let's see. And then another thing, I'm not sad anymore.
No, you're not.
You're beautiful. I'm not sad. I love it. I love being outside and seeing all the people because I feel like I'm back on track with my mission.